Do you remember last week's episode? I don't, because I was kicked in the head by a horse as a child, but my script supervisor tells me that it was about StarCraft 64, a console port of the insanely popular real-time strategy game for the PC and Mac. And after Adam told me this, and I then immediately fired him because he'd brought me a Danish pastry when I'd clearly asked for a pain au chocolat, I got thinking about other console ports of PC games, and then I thought it might be interesting to do a top 5 video of the 5 best examples of PC to console ports. And then I had a nap. Actually, a nap sounds really good about now. Firstly, let's get something out in the open. I don't really think that console gamers are stupid, dim-witted, slow-moving beasts of burden with nary a brain cell between them, but video game developers do, and they tend to shave off a lot of elements of games as they port them from PC to console. That doesn't stop some PC games from surviving the leap from consoles intact, however. For instance, the PS1 and Sega Saturn versions of Worms are more or less identical to the PC version. Compare with later games in the series, such as Worms Armageddon, which was simplified due to hardware limitations. But the good news, aside from the fact that this is the only time this season that I'll be mentioning Worms, is that some games survived the transition to consoles intact. In fact, some games arrive in a better state than they'd been in on PC. So let's look at the top 5 PC to console ports right now. You and me, let's do it. Half-Life essentially redefined the single-player first-person experience on the PC, so it was inevitable that the game would eventually make it to consoles. It almost happened in 2000 when a Dreamcast version was slated for release, but that ended up getting cancelled due to the fact that nobody of consequence gave even the merest of shits about Sega's coiled red turd. Or coiled blue turd if you lived in Europe at the time. But a year later, Half-Life appeared on the very console that had so quickly and easily slain the Dreamcast, the PlayStation 2. The graphics were given a significant overhaul, and an exclusive 2-player cooperative expansion called Half-Life Decay was included as well. They didn't shrink the levels like id Software did for the Xbox version of Doom 3, they didn't change anything or cut anything. It's Half-Life for the PlayStation 2, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. There's no denying the success of Minecraft. These days, you can walk into places like Target or Hot Topic and buy Minecraft t-shirts, toys and hats. There's even Minecraft Lego, for fuck's sake. Talk about selling out. It was never going to stay computer-bound for long, of course, and in 2012 a fresh port of the game was released for the Xbox 360. It does a remarkable job of recreating the world-building game, reconfiguring the controls for the 360 gamepad, and even allowing split-screen multiplayer. And let me tell you, there is nothing more satisfying than griefing someone who's sitting right next to you on the couch. There are some limitations, such as smaller game worlds contained within invisible walled barriers, as opposed to the potentially infinite sprawl of the PC version, but on balance it's a solid recreation of the game that makes good use of the controls. It's since been ported to the PS3, and new ports are due out for the Xbox One, the PS4 and the PlayStation Vita, so that's nice. Another world is to platforming games as Half-Life is to first-person shooters. That's not hyperbole, it's that important. It was revolutionary when it first came out for the Amiga, and it continued to be revolutionary when it was ported to every system going at the time, and while the more recent Anniversary Edition for the PC and Mac, currently available at Steam and GOG.com, is arguably the definitive version of the game, we have to go back to the Sega Genesis port, which, while lacking the higher quality sound of the Super Nintendo version, was able to maintain a higher frame rate. Like most of the console ports, this version also featured additional music which added to the experience rather than feeling tacked on unnecessarily. Superb. The Sims is probably going to go down as the biggest success of Will Wright's career, though keep in mind this is a career that also includes Sim Refinery and Spore, but it's SimCity that will forever be associated with Wright's name, and rightly so. SimCity was a massive hit. Originally released for a handful of home computer systems, including the Amiga and the Mac, it eventually found its way onto the Super Nintendo. This port was handled internally by Nintendo and produced by the great Shigeru Miyamoto himself, which likely explains why this is not just the best port of SimCity, but one of the best PC to console ports ever made. Honestly, the only downside of this port is that it doesn't support the Super Nintendo mouse, though in fairness, that is because it predates the release of the thing, so I think we'll let that one pass. So what console port could possibly top the Super Nintendo port of SimCity? Well, brace yourself for a bit of a shock, but I think you'll find you already know the answer. There is a very good reason why we chose Doom as the game for our pilot episode back in 2011. It's not just a well-executed port of a great game, it actually builds upon the original version in a wonderful and unique way. The lighting and the sound is vastly improved, the controls are top-notch, and the game includes both the original Doom and its sequel, Doom 2, with the first leading seamlessly into the next. It's a tense, atmospheric, and genuinely terrifying experience. Everything the MS-DOS version wishes it could be. In fact, this port was so good it went on to form the basis of the later, if slightly inferior port for the Sega Saturn, and it set the tone for Doom 64, an officially unofficial sequel of sorts that uses a lot of the same sound effects and audio assets and was, by and large, assembled by the same team who'd worked on the PS1 port. I could go on, but you'd be better off watching the PortsCenter pilot. Just, forgive us for the low production quality, eh? Early days and all that. So that's my list of the top 5 PC to console ports of all time. Now it's possible you have your own opinions on the matter. Maybe I left something off, maybe the list is in the wrong order for your tastes, or maybe you disagree with the content of the list in its entirety and now you think me a charlatan or moron. Possibly you're thinking of expressing that opinion in the comments below. You're welcome to do that. I invite it. There's nowhere better suited for the reasoned and sensible discussion of an unimportant topic than the comments section of a YouTube video, so do feel free to jump in with both feet. I'll be back next week with a regular episode of the show, normal, standard, except that's clearly a lie because I'm coming back with a board game instead. And then maybe the following week, I don't know, maybe I'll do a cookery show or an unboxing of a 1983 Casio digital watch with a calculator built in. I have no idea, but the only way you're going to find out is by coming back and watching the next episode. So do make sure you do that. And in the meantime, I'm going to go away because you guys never do. So I'm going. I'm gone. I'm out. I'm gone. I'm out. You do your own thing. I don't care. This door's locked. Remember last week's episode? I don't, because I got kicked in the head by a horse as a child, but my script... And brace yourself for a bit of a shock, but I think you'll find you already know the answer. Yeah. So you may as well come back and do that. So do that. And don't focus on the fact that I said do. Is this orange or red? This is red, okay.